So first things first, as you may or may not have noticed, there are ads on my channel now. I am not monetized, so I have not asked for those ads to be placed there. I'm not receiving any money for them. I don't even qualify for monetization, actually. However, apparently we're all going to have ads on our channels now. So click through those ads if you have them. If you subscribe to YouTube, then you're not seeing those anyway. But okay, so now let's get into the actual reading update. I really have gotten very little reading done. I've been talking so much on Voxer that most of my time has been spent in wonderful conversations, I might add. Awesome conversations. However, it is eating up all of my reading time. So I've read pathetically few books. But one of the things I read was this duology. The first book is called Milk Blood, and the author is Mark Matthews. You can see the cover here. And then the second book in the duology is All Smoke Rises. I am crazy about this cover. I think this cover is beautiful. The cover artist is, I looked this up, can't remember his name, Zach McCain. So, wow. Awesome cover, Zach McCain. Beautiful. Absolutely love it. And the synopsis is super intriguing for the second book. That's actually what made me pick the book up. I'm going to read it to you because it is so cool. 10-year-old Lily is the victim of a terrible house fire and a wretched family. Her father is an addict with mental illness, her mother was murdered and then buried across the street, and her uncle got her addicted to heroin. Lily's tragic story has been told in the book All Smoke Rises, and it may be true, for the author has broken into your house and placed Lily's body on your kitchen counter. He demands you read the manuscript before cutting his own wrists and bleeding out on your floor. Now you have decisions to make, for her body may not be dead, and her family is coming for her. So, awesome synopsis, right? Made me want to read this book, and it doesn't sound like you would need to read the first one. In fact, once I got the first one as well, I thought that they were the same story being told from different perspectives. So I just went ahead and read All Smoke Rises. I just thought it sounded interesting all by itself. That was a mistake. You can read it on its own. You're certainly not going to be lost or anything of the sort. But the weight of the characters was kind of lost on me while I was reading it, and I was a little tiny bit confused about exactly who these characters were and what they meant to the story. One of the characters isn't even in the first book, as it turns out, but she was pretty self-explanatory, but there were a couple of others that I was a little confused about. And also the person writing the manuscript, I didn't have any idea who that was and couldn't have known because I hadn't read the first book. Now, I really did not enjoy this one. I only gave it 2 stars. It was, you know, I liked the concept, but I did not at all care for the execution of this book. I didn't think it was really very good, to tell you the truth, the story itself. And there were some things that bugged me about it, but I'm going to do an individual review for these 2 books, an individual review video for them, so I'll go more into detail about that there. Now, this book, on the other hand, the first one I really enjoyed. I thought the story was really good. I really liked the premise of the story, where drugs play a very prominent role. Well, they do in both books, but, you know, and these people live in an extremely poor neighborhood where there's a lot of violence. And this poor little 10-year-old girl's uncle, like it said in the synopsis I read, got her addicted to heroin. And it was just very, very sad. But I thought it was really well done. There was only, was this the one or was it book 2? One of these had a narration. Was it this one? Yes, it was this one. This one, the narration, I did not care for. There were some side notes that were like put in by the writer. Not the author of the book, like the person who is writing the story in the book, the fictional writer of the story. That person puts in notes before some of the chapters. And I found that really, really distracting and didn't care for that. But other than that, I thought it was great. And I would definitely recommend this book to people who enjoy horror, although there wasn't a lot of horror to it. It was just very sort of dark and sad. But yeah, I really did enjoy this one. So that's those books. And then the other book I actually have finished was The Game Maker by Kitty Thomas. I got into an erotica mood, and Kitty Thomas is kind of my go-to erotica author. I think she writes really well. A lot of her books are hit and miss for me, but I think it's mostly her earlier books that I don't enjoy as much. Her later books are fantastic. She really, you can see like the growth of her writing as her books go on. And this was another good one. I really enjoyed this. It's not as good as Big Sky or Comfort Food, both which are my two favorite erotica novels. But I thought this one was really good. I really liked it. It's about a woman who is, aren't they always kidnapped in all of them? She's kidnapped and forced to play this game master's sort of twisted game for his entertainment or whatever. But I thought it was really good, and I thought it was really well written, and certainly if you like erotica and you're in the mood for that, this would be a good one. Okay, so that completes what I have finished. Something I'm currently reading is The Engines of God. It's the first book in a series, and it's by Jack McDevitt. Hopefully I'm remembering the last name correctly, and I'll put the cover right here because I'm reading it on Kindle. I got it super cheap, like $1.99 or something on Kindle. So I'm reading it there. And that's actually a buddy read with Scott Danielson over at his channel. It's just called Scott Danielson. If you want to check him out, you definitely should if you haven't. And I'm really, really enjoying that so far. I'm about halfway through that one. Fantastic book. Absolutely love it. Let's see. And I'm still have not finished You Get So Alone Sometimes It Just Makes Sense by Charles Bukowski. I'm still only halfway through that. I do intend to finish that soon. Actually, I have probably 6 books that I'm in the middle of reading and have not finished. So my intention is, as soon as I'm done with The Engines of God, is to go back and finish all of the books that I have not yet completed. The next thing that I'll talk about is my Boxwalla subscription. Now, I'm not saying this because I'm being sponsored or anything of the sort. I don't even have enough viewers to be sponsored. It's just a subscription that I absolutely love. What they do is they send you out 2 books every other month plus one little extra non-book item, but it's usually book related. Although one time I did get a vinyl album with my books. I was completely shocked. It was like a jazz musician from the 20s, I believe. Really, really cool. And these books are all like hidden gem type books, and they're all from all over the world. They're international. They usually have like a theme. The theme here, I believe, is short stories. The one book in it is definitely a collection of short stories called Everything Like Before by Kjell Eskildsen, and I'm probably butchering that, but this author is Norwegian, and it was translated by Sean Kinsella. Here's the cover, and it's paperback, and it's one of those nice ones with the French flaps. Really nice pages. Smells really good. That's one. It's a collection of character-driven short stories. And I'm not going to read the synopsis because the synopsis doesn't really tell you anything other than they're all character-driven. But I'm going to read you some of the blurbs from reviews on the back because I thought they were really interesting. Like this first one is by Daniel Handler. There is something so beautifully off-kilter about these stories, a luminous peculiarity that reminds us that strange writing is the only true writing about the world. I don't agree with that statement. Strange writing is not the only true writing about the world. However, I thought it was a beautiful statement, and it really gives you the impression, of course, that the writing is unusual in some way. I actually usually read a few pages into these books when I get them, but I didn't do that with this one, so I couldn't testify to that. The second one is by Aaron Tier of The Nation. Let's see, Kjell Eskildsen, like I said, I could be butchering that, writes what might reasonably be called ghost stories in which there are no ghosts. I thought that was a really interesting way to put that, and like really leaves you with an impression of it being more poetic, which is extremely appealing to me. His prose, uniformly muted and bare, seems haunted by absence. His landscapes are stage sets in which houses and lawns exist alone in an empty world. Yeah, that sounds really forlorn. This sounds right up my alley. Let's just read one more. This author's dry, absurd humor is not unlike that of Beckett. His short stories are packed with irony, and the dialogue is sharp and expressive. Again, up my alley. That was written by somebody from the Times Literary Supplement. Of course, I don't like it when they don't include the names of the reviewers. You kind of want to know who reviewed that. Anyway, so there's that book. And then this one, which I think is also a collection of short stories. Nope, never mind, it is not. Okay, so the name of this book is An Apprenticeship or the Book of Pleasures by Clarice Lispector. And it's a little hardback. I'll show you. The cover's just very boring. It's a little brick red silver text on the spine. The translator is, who's the translator on this? Oh, I think this one didn't have a translator, actually. Oh, yes, it did. Stefan Tobler, or Tobler, is the translator on this one. So yeah, this one is not short stories. Doesn't look like. Nope, it looks like it's an actual novel. But I will tell you, I read a few pages into this, and the format that the author has chose to write this in is bizarre. There is not any real proper punctuation being used here at all. The beginning of the sentence, let's see if you can see that. Can you see that? Literally starts with a comma. That's the first sentence, is a comma and a lowercase first letter, like it's in the middle of a sentence. Being so busy, she'd just come from the grocery shopping that the maid had rushed because she was shirking more every day. And I'm not going to continue on because there's literally no period, just a series of commas and dashes until you get to page 5. So you're right here, starts on page 3, the text starts here, and you don't get your first period until right here. So it's one super long run-on sentence. That's like what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 paragraphs long. I was so blown away by that. But what I read was like super interesting. So I'm looking forward to reading that book. Let's see. Then the non-book item that I got was this little tiny pocket notebook. You see this little, you're getting a glare because I didn't take it out of the plastic. But you can see there's a little lady, the back of a lady. She's walking away or running away here. And on the back is a quote. I'll read you the quote. The quote is, "My candle burns at both ends. It will not last the night. But ah, my foes, and oh, my friends, it gives a lovely light." Oh, yeah, that's a nice quote. I like that one. But anyway, yeah, so I thought that was really cute. I'll stick this in my purse when I'm done using the one I have in there currently. The other thing that I want to talk about is a series of Conan books I got. Okay, so I have the complete omnibus, Weird Tales omnibus for the Conan stories by Robert E. Howard. But that book only has those that were published in Weird Tales. And these books have some of those that were not in the Weird Tales omnibus. Apparently it doesn't have every single one because there are some, I guess, copyright issues happening. I won't even go into that. But Matt over at Paperback Junkie explained that to me. And that sounds like a bunch of garbage, if you ask me. But anyway, the point is that all the ones that are accessible anyways are in these books. And they were published by Del Rey, I think. Yes, Del Rey. Now I'm going to give a shout out to Michael Vaughn. And if you have not checked out his channel, you definitely should. He's extremely entertaining. I love his channel. I'll have both Paperback Junkie and Michael Vaughn's channels linked in my description. But I'm going to give a shout out to him because I saw him talk about these on his channel a while back. And so I thought, ooh, that's a really good idea. I'm going to buy those books. So I got all of them in one order. I'll just show you the covers here. It's the first one. The Coming of Conan the Cimmerian. And then the next one, which is The Conquering Sword of Conan. Okay. And The Bloody Crown of Conan. All obviously in paperbacks. Oh, and then this one is not Conan. This was a character that Robert E. Howard wrote about before Conan named Kull. And so I got this book. Is this all of the stories? I can't remember. You know, I'm not sure if this is all of the Kull stories or not, probably, is my guess. But Kull, Exile of Atlantis. So I got this. And then I got, because I absolutely love Red Sonja, I got Sword Woman and Other Historical Adventures because it has Red Sonja stories inside of it by Robert E. Howard. So I got that one. Now I believe there are 2 more of these Del Rey books. No, there's a lot more than just 2. There's a bunch of others that Robert E. Howard wrote that Del Rey published in these editions. So I do plan going back and getting all of those, or at least all of the ones that I'm pretty sure I'm going to be interested in reading. So yeah, so that is everything I think. Oh, no, it's not everything. There's one more thing I want to talk about. Okay, so a while back, a month or two ago, I got a couple of mystery packages in the mail that had science fiction. Let's see, the first one had science fiction and fantasy paperback mixes, a mix of science fiction and fantasy paperbacks. And the second one was just science fiction only. And I kept some of them. And one of them that I kept was book 3 in a series of novels about a character named Elric of Melonbone. And this is book 3 called The Weird of White Wolf. Beautiful cover, absolutely. I'm totally into these old covers from the 60s. I absolutely love them. And the author is Michael Moorcock. This is like a really pretty well-known series. I've never read it, but it comes highly recommended, and I love sword and sorcery fantasy. So this was amazing. I read this, even though it's in the 3rd book. I absolutely loved it. I have to say I was not familiar with the characters as I probably should have been, but it was fine. I didn't feel like I was particularly lost or anything. Maybe I didn't know some things, but I was fine reading this. So I decided to go back and get the rest of the books. So I bought the first one in the same order with that Conan, with those Conan books. I got the first where they're all grouped in a series of books where they have the entire saga together. So the first book in that grouping is Elric of Melonbone and Other Stories. Oh, Melnibone, not Melonbone. I always want to call it Melonbone. It's Melnibone and Other Stories. There's the cover. I don't particularly like the covers. They're really plain, but I just wanted to find a really good cost-effective collection of the entire saga so I could read it. If I really, really fall in love with it, I can always go back later and look for the individual books in nice copies or better copies that I would want to keep permanently. So yeah, so I'm excited to read these, to read this series, which I plan to do sometime this year. Okay, so that's finally all the books that I wanted to talk about and all the updates that I have for you.